So the body is all painted and polished. I decided that a uniform, slightly shiny finish is easier to go for than a uniformly flat one. So after doing my sanding with the 1000, I hit it with a buffing wheel and some sort of cream stuff. That new finish. Anyway, works fine. Looks good. Feels nicer, actually, frankly. So we'll go for it. So now we're putting the tune pegs in, and these are your Chinese cheapos, but they're decent. They feel decent, by which I mean good enough. So the trick with these guys is getting them lined up and putting these bushings in. Make sure they're facing the right way. They thread into each other. And once I've got all 6 of them in, I'll line them up along their back sides as best as can be done, drill new holes, and set them in. Got the tuners in place. They are not identical, so when I look at them lined up, even if I do my best to line them up, the holes aren't straight perfectly, and then some of the, like the shaft between the body and the this little nylon washer here seem to change from one to the next. I don't know if that's an illusion or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if these were not manufactured on the same day in the same place. Anyway, it is what it is. I'm getting what I wanted out of them, which was an inexpensive set of tuners. So, again, this project build is all about what do you get for 200 bucks? What do you get for your money from BYO guitar? Unless you want to upgrade, and then, you know, more tuners is another 20 to 40 bucks. A better pickup is 20 to 40 bucks. So this is the absolute cheapo. I've never turned the little screws to adjust the heights of the poles. I assume that's what they're for. This one doesn't have them. They're just magnetic poles buried into the body of the thing. Maybe that's normal, I have no idea. But I know, like the Gibson ones, you can, if for nothing else, you take the screws out to take the nickel cover off. So anyway, I've screwed that thing directly down. Oh, I'm out of frame. Screwed this guy directly down into the deck. I think you can see that. So it's in there solid, and the height looks reasonable. So I'm just going to go with that, and then if I need to change it, I'll change it later. I had to start somewhere, so I started with just putting stuff in, and there's way too much wire, so I can strip this back to the length I need, or let it coil in there, I suppose, but you don't want coils anywhere where they're not doing you something specific, otherwise they're not doing you any good. Can tap the bridge posts in, and this is just about the simplest wiring in the world. So all I need to do is attach this to the jack, or the volume pot rather, and then that goes to the jack. So I've got a little download wiring scheme for that. It couldn't be simpler as far as guitar wiring goes. And there, we'll get this thing put together. Neck goes onto the body. I'm going to do that last. Well, right before I put the bridge actually on. But for all the flipping the guitar body around that I'm going to be doing in the next stage, I don't want the headstock banging up on things. So I'll just leave the neck off until I have to put it on. So let's see where that takes us. Got the wiring done. Pretty simple stuff. As you can see, that is a simple wiring diagram. What I did is left all of the wire that came with the pickup in one piece, because I'm not keeping it in here for long, so I just coiled it around the outside of the cavity. I use that aluminum tape. I don't have copper tape, but I have aluminum sitting around, and it's conductive, so probably doesn't work as well, but it probably works better than nothing. So where is it? The pot came with the brown, black, and white wires on it. Black and white go over here, so I've soldered that to the jack. And then the brown one I soldered into a pile over here. And you have to scratch that metal up, because it's not galvanized, but it's got, looks like some kind of a coating or something. Maybe it's just dirt. So I just gave it a bunch of scratches with my pliers to make sure the solder would stick down. So that's that. I'm going to put a little bit more of this tape on the control plate cover, or no, control cavity cover, and then we'll tap the bridge in, screw the neck on, put the nut on, and then we'll be able to string up a working electric guitar. Okay, she's all done, or at least she's all in one piece. The saddle guys aren't in place yet, so I'm still dealing with tuning issues. The intonation is pretty close to where it needs to be. The G and B strings are sharp, the 12th fret slightly, so that's pretty easy to fix. The main problem that I see is the bridge height. I don't know if you can tell, but that is enormously high. So I mean, this should be more like half that. And of course it's not adjustable. I have to put some wood in underneath these screws. So I'll try and find something I can stick in there. And I've ordered a MXR style knob, which will be ages before it gets here, so I'll just have to put the cheap and cheerful chrome thing on there, which will work. Anyway, so a couple of tune-up issues, and then we'll do a sound test. I've already plugged the body in, so I know my electronics are done properly. It wasn't buzzing, and if I tap the pickup I get some sound, so that part of it works. We'll just see how it comes out when it's done. In the efforts to try and get this thing working, we always wind up dealing with the, well, trying to balance the bridge against the neck relief and so forth. So I have to tighten the truss rod and then come back over here and tighten the springs, or loosen everything off, slack the strings completely off, so that I can grab the bridge with one hand and pull the contact point away from the screw so I can raise it. You could, in theory, just turn it right now, but then of course you're wearing out the contact surfaces, which is stupid. So these things are a lot of work to get set up. Once they're set up, you've invested your time wisely. A few points of complaint. This, well, the huge amount of play in this for a brand new tremolo system, but you know, this is the $20 version of it, so obviously that was going to happen. This is chrome plated, probably copper plated under that. It looks like copper. There was a very sharp edge there, so while I had the bridge off last time, I just sort of quickly hit it with the file. It's still kind of a snag right there, but anyway, it's exposed. It looks like sort of a coppery color. It's hard to tell because it's reflecting red off the body. You'll see that maybe I should have done thicker paint for the black stripes, because it's showing how thick the red coat was. This red paint's really been a pain. Anyway, the switch, it's a huge amount of clearance underneath it, and it's just the way it was set up. Probably the only way to fix that would be to put some washers underneath to make sure that the knob is actually against the deck, which is preferable. Now, here's a pretty major problem. I guess it's kind of dark in there, but you can see where I've had to scratch the wood away. The bridge was contacting the body, and I commented how the routing wasn't very smooth and wasn't great. Well, it turned out to be worse than I thought, and I've had to do quite a bit of grinding in here to get that to go. So at first I just did it with a file, and that was just making a mess. So then I hit it with my Dremel using just probably a tool sharpener bit, but it did a decent job at grinding the wood away, because this isn't very hard wood. So after a bunch of time, you can just see that I've got some clearance there, just enough to make it work. So now that I've got that, to stop grinding against the body, I've been raising the bridge height to get that set up properly, and now these springs are grinding against the wood. So this cavity is not routed deep enough. That's one way of fixing it. If I wanted to take the bridge totally apart, I could replace this mast block with one I have that's bigger. It's bigger in every way, it's heavier, and it's a lot of things. But that's just a lot of work, and it's completely disassembling the bridge. And I've just gone to all the work of intonation, so I don't kind of want to do that. And I think it would actually be less work just to hit this thing with my router and take the this pocket down another, I don't know what, 1/8 of an inch. It's hard to say because I know that this cavity is actually close to the pickup cavity. I don't know how thick they are in between, but that's a consideration because that would be a disaster. And I know there's a couple of screw heads, the pickup. Well, they're probably out here though. Out this far apart, so this is probably safe. But I'd have to measure that. So then you can see there, it's grinding the paint away. So if these don't move freely, then the tremolo isn't returning to 0 point every time, which means this thing has absolutely no tuning stability, which was the whole point of having a double locking tremolo system. So I've got some more work to do. I'm either going to take the bridge apart totally and retrofit a different whatever you call it, mast block with a bigger one that I happen to have, or do some woodwork. And woodworking then means I got to deal with paint and I got to screw around. Oh, and I got to get this pickup raised up because that's ridiculous. I mean, that's just silly. That's over. Well, it's not over, but it's almost 1/2 inch. Anyway, we'll probably, I think the bridge is as high as I want it because if I've got my action pretty good, I have to let the thing sit for a bit. Oh, and I noticed that this nut didn't sit very nicely in its little home. So I've taken it off once already and hit that with a file, and it's still not sitting quite right. So I'm going to have to hit that with a file again. So just, you know, another note to all y'all wanting to buy a guitar kit and assemble it yourself. Just be prepared. It takes a tremendous amount of work. I've probably got 30 hours into this thing. And if you don't have a router, and if you're not good at filing, and if you're not good at a lot of this precision cleanup work, then your project might just turn out to be a big piece of crap. And, you know, these joints don't fit really nicely. There's kind of a gap there. That's just not real clean joint. But I mean, all the screw holes were drilled for me, so I wasn't going to fill them in and make new ones. Anyway, it's still a pretty guitar, but I'd like it to perform better, and I'm going to have to fix a couple of things about it. So we're not done yet.